Hi guys, it's Amanda here, your kitty of Carnage.
And I'm Tex KORESH, your cowboy of Carnage.
Hey, everybody has their thing. Today we're doing a discussion on the film that we saw. We did a review on it, guys. We have a review below. We have a non-spoiler review for 2019's Joker. Not the Joker, which you have reminded me many times because I always add the on it. But Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips. We are going to do a spoiler discussion, guys. We had a lot to say about this film, and we left a lot out because when we did our review, a lot of people haven't seen it yet. And now that more people have seen the film, we feel like it's a better time than any to talk about spoiler issues of the film.
I agree. You turned into Captain Kirk.
I try. Going into this story, are introduced to Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck, A. Fleck. Ha! I said this in the last review too. But yeah, A. Fleck. Get it? Because Batman is Ben Affleck, and in the film is Arthur Fleck.
Spoiler alert!
Right? Guys, spoiler alert who Batman is.
I thought it was Bruce Wayne.
Anyways, you get introduced to character Arthur Fleck, who is a man who is a professional clown. He's dabbling in stand-up comedian. He lives with his mother, and he takes care of her and whatnot. Well, the film kind of just introduces him as a character. You kind of learn that he has, you know, issues of, what do you say, like a laughing disorder, and he has anxiety, and he's kind of dabbling in stand-up comedy. Well, to get into our spoiler discussion, we're going to kind of go into the subway scene. And if you guys have seen the film, if you haven't seen the film, then I'm sorry, you probably should see it before you watch this. The murder scene, when Arthur Fleck gets his gun that he got from work from that guy. This is cool, and the guys start beating him up, and he kills the three men. And that's when I feel like the film kind of, you know, he kind of grabbed himself as a character. Right. And I kind of got, that's when I started feeling more of the story. And we are going to go into, like we said, spoilers, but I'm going to kind of jump into the things that kind of were beneficial to the story, how we feel about pinpoints of the story. But I feel the subway scene is when it kind of really introduced the character, not the character of Joker, but the character of Arthur Fleck, and, you know, kind of like his train to crazy.
Right. Because that scene had a little bit of everything in it as far as the laughing and then, you know, him actually killing people. But
what kind of started the situation is, of course, if you guys seen it, you know, he goes to the girl and he's kind of bothering the girl. And, of course, with Arthur Fleck's laughing disorder, he starts laughing, and the guys are kind of like, and I believe it was after he was fired, so he kind of wasn't really right, so he was already suffering from anxiety, and he was laughing, and the three guys were like, huh, what? And that's when they started beating him up, and that's when Arthur Fleck, and the scene about it kind of gets me the most, is you notice that, like, at first you're like, oh yeah, those are bullies, kill him, like, but when he follows that guy,
oh yeah,
that's when you're kind of like, oh,
I love that part too.
Yeah, like he follows the man, and the thing about it too is, like, when he followed the man, it was very how do you say? I want to say jokey, but it was very light-hearted. It seemed like he was very like, like. He was angry, but I don't know how to explain it. It was very light. Well,
because he was becoming himself.
Yeah.
As you yourself said, that's when he was making the transition into being the Joker.
Yes. And so that scene was kind of like, I was like, oh, when he started following him, you're like, oh. Going back to the beginning of the film, I kind of skipped this part. Whenever they introduce his mother, who he's living with, you kind of find out that his mother used to be a housekeeper for Mr. Thomas Wayne. And you guys know Wayne Enterprises. You guys know the same universe. And she kind of talks to the beginning of the film. She goes, "Oh, well, I've been writing, you know, Thomas Wayne. I've been writing Mr. Wayne, and he should be writing back, etc., etc." Well, you kind of find out, fast forwarding a little bit, you kind of find out the three men that were on the train who were total a-holes worked for Wayne, Thomas Wayne. The murders that happened, you know, they kind of identify, they said the man in the clown with the clown face because, you know, Arthur Fleck is a professional clown. He was wearing his clown outfit and everything when that happened. So when Thomas Wayne was having the press conference, he was like, they were like, the clown, they're asking questions and stuff, and he referred to people as clowns. And because of that, it became kind of a standpoint of the film, became a symbol then. Everybody started, it became a movement kind of, they're just like clowns and stuff. So he became a symbol of it and everything. So clowns became kind of a anarchist symbol for Gotham at the time.
It kind of reminded me a lot of another DC movie, which is V for Vendetta.
Yes.
The way that the Guy Fawkes mask, you know, kind of take over the symbol for, you know, anarchy and everything. But this time it was the clown mask, the Joker. And the other thing I want to say is that, speaking of Thomas Wayne, this is the first movie that portrays Batman's dad as kind of a douchebag.
I don't think he was so much of a douchebag as he kind of was tolerating what he could. Because if you think about it, you know, he was used to people kind of, and we're going to get into that in a minute when we get on that subject, but he was kind of used to a lot of crazy people doing crazy things. Because usually when they portray him, he's kind of like, you know,
someone to be looked up to. And in this one, he was more of just kind of like a rich guy who doesn't care about poor people, or you know what I'm saying, or who doesn't care about. At least that's what I took away from it. I took away he was just kind of a rich guy who doesn't care about the blue collar working class regular guy, you know.
Well, I took it as kind of like he's used to bullshit all the time. That's what I think. So I think he was kind of dealing with it the best way he knew how, and basically he was just telling people to go F themselves. Because he was sick of it. He's sick of being pulled down for being rich. He was sick of, you know, the crazy people going after, because we'll talk more about little crazy people going after the Waynes in a little bit. But I think he was just so, I guess the point is he was exhausted of just trying, it felt like. But that's why we have these conversations, because we see things.
What do you think? Was Thomas Wayne a douchebag?
Victim of circumstance is the best way to put it. Victim of circumstance. Getting back to Penny Fleck, Arthur's mother, she, like we said, keeps talking about writing Thomas Wayne and said he's gonna make sure we're okay, and he needs to know that because we're close friends. So she kind of establishes this point of like she's really close to Thomas Wayne, and Arthur comes to this real understanding that her and Thomas have a close relationship. He comes to find a letter that she wrote to Thomas Wayne. He kind of goes and kind of reads a letter because he gets kind of curious, because his mother carries this picture of Thomas Wayne that's like signed, and I don't remember what it says, but she like carries it around everywhere. And
great job cleaning the floors.
There you go, or something, I don't know. Reads one of her letters. Well, his mother states in a letter, kind of proclaiming and saying that, I don't know if proclaiming is the right word, but she kind of basically says that Arthur is his son.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Wayne is Fleck's father, apparently, and he sees this and he's like, oh my god, so Thomas Wayne's my father. So he starts to believe that Thomas Wayne's his father. So that's when the chaos fully kind of climbs the ladder a little bit.
When I heard that, I thought that would have been a really interesting plot. Because if you think about it, that would have meant that Bruce Wayne and Joker were half brothers.
I know.
And I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. That's a lot different than the, because I knew this was supposed to be not your typical DC movie, and it wasn't supposed to be, you know.
It's like its own story.
Yeah, its own story. So I was like, wow, that would be a really. I was really surprised that they even mentioned Thomas Wayne. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to have any connection, but I didn't mind that. I didn't mind the Thomas Wayne thing because that kind of did reel it into the DC, you know, mythos. But yeah, I was when I heard that, I was like, oh wow, that's going to be super. That's going to be crazy because that means Nemesis is his half brother.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
But, like, that's what I thought, too, in the scene where he goes to the Wayne's house. And you see Alfred. Like, you see Alfred and you see young Bruce Wayne. It's like, wow, this is crazy. And he touches Bruce Wayne's face. And he's like, oh... And then, you know, they kind of, and you kind of, I thought, wow, that was so interesting. And I was so, like, I was, like, engulfed, and I was like, oh, my goodness, this is so interesting. And then he kind of tries to get to Thomas Wayne. Like you said, he shows his house, and they escort him out because he's like, I'm so-and-so's son. And whenever he goes to the Wayne's house and he goes, oh, I'm so-and-so, everybody gets really like, when they say who is, and you think it's because she had Thomas Wayne's illegitimate child. And no, because you find out in the next scene when when Arthur goes to Bruce and meets him, they kind of escort him on the property and kind of think, oh, they don't want Bruce to know that's his brother, and they don't want them. Well, no. What happens, you guys know, he goes to the theater and he finally confronts Thomas Wayne. And you find out that, no, Penny was fired and institutionalized because she was crazy. Yeah.
Crazy about Thomas Wayne.
Exactly. She was crazy about Thomas Wayne, and that Arthur is adopted and not her son, and he said there are papers to prove it. What?
Shocking.
What? And when I found that out, I was like, oh my goodness. And guys, this is probably TMI, but I'm going to tell you this. When that scene came up, I had to use the bathroom. Like, right, seriously. Like, if you guys watch the non-spoiler review, which the link is going to be in the description, I literally was so mad. And I ran back, and I literally went like, what is? And he went, I'll tell you after the movie. And I'm like, but then I won't know what's going on. So he was like telling me, and Cody was just like, blah, 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 and he's adopted. I was like, oh man, I already knew that part, but okay. Anyways, yeah, so I was so like, huh?
Were you really surprised when you found out that she was lying? Because by that point I was starting to get the idea that she's a little off.
I knew she was a little off, and I kind of knew all that, so I wasn't too surprised. I just, when they kind of, how do I explain, like the scene when they, well, this is spoiler review, so if you guys seen this movie, if you're watching this, what gets me is the scene where they show, you know, her crazy. We're like, oh shit, okay, that makes sense. Like, it shows how crazy his mother really was, and how you find out that he doesn't have a laughing disorder. He has a laughing disorder, but it's not a disorder. It's a symptom of brain trauma due to an injury because his mother was physically abusive. So you come to realize, oh, that's where all this is coming from. It shows like his mom would like beat him up, and like he would like, it was just insane. So you learn so much of the situation. You're like, oh my goodness. Just seeing all that, him as a character and the audience, it was kind of like, oh, it just altogether was like the nail on the coffin of crazy. It seemed like all that happened because whenever he thought Thomas Wayne was his father, he was like, had a real joy. He was like really happy, and he felt a hole. And then all of a sudden he realizes, oh, I don't have anybody. Even the person that I have, I thought had to love me, like adopted me and abused me. Like, I don't have anybody. That's how I got from it, at least. And it was really, whew, it was a lot.
And I think he loved his mother so much that it wasn't even necessarily that he wanted a father figure, like he wanted Thomas Wayne to be his father.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that he thought that Thomas Wayne could help his mother.
Yeah.
And that's why he was reaching out to him. Not so much because, you're my daddy, but like, help my mommy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And all the uncoverings of the secrets of Arthur Fleck are basically revealed. That's when things get really interesting. It gets kind of crazy, and then you find out, like, a lot of things kind of get revealed. Like, in the film, he has a girlfriend, Sophie, and they have a relationship and stuff, and you kind of find out it's not real. It's in his head. And you kind of, you realize that the dates they went on in the film were on his head. Everything was made up. And whenever that was the realization, that came to kind of the front of the film, I thought that was really, really interesting.
they got all Fight Club on us.
I know. I thought it was so interesting how that played.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, there's so many. But then again, I'm going to get to that point. That makes you think about the film, because you kind of sit there, and I'll get onto this point, and then I'll get onto this point afterwards. He goes to the hospital after, everything, and he suffocates his mother. He kills her at the hospital and everything. And when he kills her, it seems, you see there's anger, but also, like, it's kind of it's an untilted kind of, like, I don't know how to explain it. It was a very like, I'm not really sure what, and that's the thing about, the mind, is you can't really structure somebody else's thought fully, of course. And so, like, when he killed her, and then you find out, oh, well, my girlfriend wasn't my girlfriend, and things were made up, you sit there and you think, like, how much of this have I seen already has been real and what's been fake?
Yeah.
It makes you think. And then this gets to the point, too, the ending. The ending, he gets on to, Murphy Franklin's show, and he gets on there, and you think, because they're planning, you think he's planning on killing himself on live television. It's there, and the whole time you're waiting for it, you're like, oh, he's going to kill himself, he's going to kill himself. And before he gets on stage, though, remember, he goes, introduce me, I'm Joker. Mm-hmm. When he says Joker, like, that's when you're kind of like, ooh. But I think the main intro of the Joker wasn't even that, it was the stair scene.
Oh, yeah.
The stair scene, that is when you kind of establish, who he was.
Yeah.
Very, very cryptic. This is what he's become. This is this is his end point. So when he gets to the Franklin show, you're waiting for him to, boom himself. And of course, he sits there, and the speech he does is really, it really got me. It was really strange how much madness made so much sense. It's crazy to think that I'm sitting here listening to Joker, and at the same time I was like, that's exactly it. Not saying that I'm crazy. I'm not saying dressed up like a clown and killing people is it. I'm not saying that. But there was a reality in the madness with what he was saying. And so it was kind of like up and down. But you think he's going to kill himself, and all of a sudden he turns and Robert De Niro, there he goes.
I think the thing is, and like what you may be trying to get at, if I'm not incorrect, is that you're so invested in this character throughout the movie that you're kind of glad that he finds his truth. And that when he's like dancing down the stairs and all that, you're kind of happy for him because like he's himself now. You know what I mean? And like you're talking about when he has the girlfriend, like that's the normalcy in his life. That's like he's got that's the one normal part that he has in his life. And then when you find out that that's not true, you're kind of like really devastated. Sorry for him because he really has nothing. He really has nothing. And so like you take such an emotional journey with this guy that even though he's the bad guy, you're still kind of rooting for him, and you're like, oh wow, he's okay. He's who he is now. He's himself now.
Well, yeah, and the main thing is like it makes you think like if that's fake, what else is in his mind in the film?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh well, if that we're watching now, we thought that was real. So what else did he get? Was the subway real? Like you kind of start thinking. And your mind kind of starts going. You're like, was the subway real? Did he, was he really abused? It kind of makes you kind of think more into him and everything. After all that chaos, he gets arrested by the cops, and he's getting transported to by the police. And you're thinking, oh, Joker's about to go to jail. No. Okay, there's chaos in the streets, okay? There's clown riots. People are flipping out because they find out, because he admits on live TV that he's the clown killer, and everything. And so they're just like, oh, yeah, so he's a symbol. He's like an anarchist symbol. So the police are driving. All of a sudden, the Klan anarchists hit the cop car, pull Joker out, kills the police officers, and lets Joker out. And he goes out, and he's kind of like, oh, and he's kind of like taking in all the chaotic, I guess, respect from everybody around him who's basically praising him. So he's like taking it in. And that's when you guys realize that the Joker did not kill Bruce Wayne's parents. The rioter, the chaos of the support of the Joker, one of his, I guess, rioters killed the Wayne parents. So I thought that was really interesting, and I liked kind of like how they did that because, when I was watching it, as soon as, like, the chaos started happening, you saw them leaving, like, of course, everybody, it was like, oh! I kind of saw that, coming, and I was just like, oh, this is crazy. But I thought that was so interesting with that. I, however, am really pleased that they, ended it the way they did. What did you think about the...
Yeah, I enjoyed the ending. Well, I enjoyed the movie from beginning to end, but I thought the ending was good, and I thought that was a nice little twist because you're sitting there thinking, okay, the Joker, because the timing of everything, like you said, they're showing them leave the theater, they're showing the Joker, getting set free, and you're thinking, oh God, the Joker's going to kill his parents, and then they kind of twist it on you, and you're like, oh, okay, cool,
Yeah. Well, the ending actually is when you go a little further, he gets into Arkham Asylum, and then when he goes to Arkham Asylum, he basically sees the therapist. And when he sees the therapist, it's kind of funny because he says that joke.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not really a joke. He's just sitting there and he's like, oh, well, you won't get it. You wouldn't get it. Like, and that's the first time he genuinely laughs.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's the first time he laughs. And you're like, oh, he really is cracking himself up. Because he's not like hysterically laughing. He's just like, oh, you won't get it. So he's put away. And the last scene kind of like entails what I was saying about with you don't know what's reality. You don't know what's in his mind. When the ending scene, he's walking out. He's walking his bloody footprints. And that scene was kind of like, oh, like the ending that I was glad I would do it. But what did you feel about what did you feel about the Batman? Because I felt like they used it right.
Yeah, well, like I said, I believe I said this in the other review that I was okay with the use of Thomas Wayne because that was distant enough to make a kind of a cool connection, but not be too close to the universe. But then when they brought in Bruce Wayne, because I couldn't really just say this in the spoiler-free thing, but the age difference really bothers me because if you're thinking about it, Bruce Wayne was like probably not even 10 years old. I mean, how old do you think he was? Maybe 10?
Yeah.
And Joker, or at least Joaquin Phoenix, is like 46, 47 years old.
Yeah.
And so that would have made him 37 years older than Batman. So by the time Batman's old enough to fight crime, you say, okay, he's 30, and that puts the Joker at like 67 years old.
Yeah.
It just didn't make a lot of sense to me because I've always thought of the Joker as being a little bit older than Batman, but not, 30, 40 years older than him.
And I liked how they used Batman, but that was the only kind of the negative that I couldn't put in the non-spoiler review is I don't like the difference between the age because but then again, it is its own story, and maybe they were trying, because I was thinking about it afterwards, maybe they were trying hard to kind of distinguish them as different stories. I was kind of scared to wait for an after credit scene, because I was like, if there's an after Batman credit scene in Joker, I'm not going to know what to do. It's just, I'm not trying to, Batman's good. I like Batman, guys, don't get me wrong, I like Batman. But I respected Joker as its own existing story and the grasp of the character itself without combining him as a villain, because I felt like the film worked with him being just a person going through trivial things in life and not really establishing reality with sanity and insanity, a mix of things. So I like how they did Bruce Wayne because they kind of pushed it off. But thank you for not doing a Batman after credits scene. I really appreciate it. Merry Halloween.
So on a related note, kind of what you're talking about, because I think I felt one way going into the movie and a different way now. How would you feel if they made a Joker sequel?
I don't know. It's just depending who would be involved. But I'm not a universe. I wouldn't be okay with superhero universe.
What if they just did bad guys and Todd Phillips directed? See, okay, this is my problem. When I found out about the movie, I was totally okay. I was like, because first of all, I love Joaquin Phoenix. I've always loved Joaquin Phoenix, and I'm like, oh god, Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, that's going to be so good, and it was. And now I'm like, oh god, am I never going to see him play this character again? It's like, oh, I want to see him play this character again. Just the same way I feel about Mandy. I think in my heart I want a sequel, but I don't really want it because I know it's not going to be the same.
I think if they did a sequel, Mandy wouldn't be as ambiguous, but that's a whole other video. But now that I'm thinking, not so much of a universe of just Batman or the villains, but Arkham, a series of Arkham,
Yeah, well, the second movie could just be all him. He could be in Arkham the entire movie.
Well, I mean, a universe of Arkham.
Yeah,
I was talking about sequels of Arkham, just people going stories of the things. But okay, guys, well that concludes our spoiler discussion. What do you guys think? You guys think we're right? Do you think we're wrong? What have you? Let us know. Comment below. We seek approval. You guys know this. So do not forget to like and subscribe. Like right here. And subscribe. Until next time, bye.
I don't want you to leave, so I'm not going to tell you bye.
I will. Bye.
No, I thought I had a name tag on for a second. But I was like, that's my honey's name. Okay, I'm coming right here.
Okay. I'll start now. Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.